Right. Let's make a start. There was in the morning we had three panelists speaking about therapies, and taking it forward, um, we haven't heard a lecture from your side, so we'll begin with you. To make some introductory comments about what would be your I mean, because you were not there as a speaker, so if you can set the ball rolling, it would be a good idea.
All right, my name is Robert Bernstein. I work in the cognitive realm of things. And what's cognition? What's cognitive? What's concepts? What am I talking about? Let me introduce the idea of concepts of cognition this way. If I asked you to draw a picture of an apple or a dog, all right, you would just kind of do that. And if I asked you to draw a picture of animal, now you go, wait. What do you mean? You hesitate for a moment, right? If I say draw a picture of food, like, what does he, what do you mean? It's hard to draw a picture of a concept, food, animal. It's easier to draw a picture of a percept, what you perceive, like apple, what you see. You could see an apple, you can't see animal, right? You could see a dog. You could draw a picture of a dog. It's the same thing with language. Around a year old, a child will say their first words. It's often perceptual. It's often linear. Dog, cat, mommy. By the time they're about 18 months or so, and this is a good question for the researchers, because this isn't new, around that age, sometimes you have totally typical kids, and like a light switch, something happens. Around that same time, 2 words come into play. Now listen to this. And this example is from Lois Bloom at Teachers College, Columbia University. I use it all the time. A kid says, "Mommy, sweater," right? Now, if you're a behavioral linear thinker, you say the kid learned the word mommy, kid learned the word sweater, and he learned 2 words. And I'm saying, no. What it is, from a cognitive point of view, the child saying the underlying, right? That's what we're talking about. Underlying meanings. What's underlying the behavior, the concept, in this case, of possession. Well, you can't see that. Just like animals. You can't see that concept of possession. A cognitive person like myself will believe that's what the kid's saying. Mommy sweater. The sweater belongs to mommy. So it's that perspective that I could introduce my idea, my perception, my approach to language and autism.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your introductory comments. Now, if we go on to, I'll just summarize whatever had been, discussed in your lectures, and I can start with Dr. Kavita Arora. You mentioned about the early intervention model for autism as a smart connect. And what you mentioned is that neurons that fire together, wire together. So you were talking about connectivity, and as Vishwadev was talking about, the first 1,000 days are very critical in terms of the brain being more flexible. So the connectivity becomes very important. So you mentioned about this, we connect with each other to connect the different systems of the brain. And then you kind of went on to different kinds of therapies being integrated together. And you mentioned about integration being the buzzword rather than splintering, and that would help in building connections. And you mentioned about empowerment and sort of parent-child attachment and things like that. And Joanne, in her autism movement therapy, also mentioned about connectivity, connecting the 2 parts of the brain through the corpus callosum, and how this particular autism movement therapy helps in that. So it is very interesting because you have mentioned as a young child, and taking a leaf out of what Vishwadev spoke just now, and you were talking about it's not essentially in a child, it can be across the lifespan. So let us start with this issue about connectivity and how it is important in terms of across the ages. I mean, not only in a very small child, but also across the ages. So if you can start.
So let me get let me make sure I understand the question. So we're looking at connectivity in the brain and how that affects the child from the beginning ages all the way through his life.
Yes.
Basically. I'd like to start with a story about how I developed autism movement therapy. I was in the classroom in LA Unified School District for 10 years, moderate to severe education specialist. And I had students coming to me as my first year contract who were rolling on the floor and stimming on the lights. Limited communicators, no language, not all of them, but 9 students who were severely autistic. And I said, I have to do some thinking here. And they were like, oh yeah, and by the way, we want you to teach them to read. I was like, okay. Let's clear the floor, and we started doing yoga. We were moving. We started rehearsing plays, putting on performances, along with the academic. And I always had music playing at the front in a little CD player that I still have. It's 20 years ago. And the music was no lyrics. It was environmental music, actually. It was Asian music, Amazon music, Chinese music, but no words. And I played that all the time. They were doing independent work. When I was doing direct instruction, I turned it off. And what I saw was my own research. 2 years later, one of the little guys who came to the class rolling on his back and stimming on the lights left speaking, "Will you be going to middle school with us, Miss Lara?" I said, "No, but your mother has my email and you'll call me and we are going to miss you." Oh my God. He was assisting in general ed classrooms. We were beginning a full inclusion program model in LA Unified School District. And I said, you know what, bingo, it's all about the music and the movement. And as soon as I exit LA Unified School District, I'm going to develop a program that does just that. And I really believe strongly in interventions that do use music and movement, because you're working with gross motor, audio processing, visual processing. The brain has to work. It has to come to attention. Whether it be my movement therapy or any other that is integrating music and movement together.
Right, thank you.
I agree with what Joanne is saying, that, and what Bhishmadev also said, and I think Julie Sanders said the same thing when she talked about the brain-body connect. So the connect as a word seems to have so many layers, but what we understand about the human brain, especially in the early years, is about connect. It is about connecting in a particular context, connecting one system to another, but even beyond that. So, for example, if you have come here today, dressed up the way you have, and you're sitting where you're sitting, there are so many systems working inside you to make that happen. When you're uncomfortable, sometimes you don't know, you don't tell your body, but you will change the way that you're sitting. Your posture will change. What's working at that point of time is a whole lot of connections at every level inside your brain. And some of them you're aware of, and some of them you're not aware of. And this comes absolutely naturally to all of us. So when it is not coming naturally, either it is delayed or it is difficult, or one part is not connecting to another part, that's when we find that connectivity or connections become more important, because we realize what's not happening. And I do believe that some of the developmental disorders that we talk about every day, this connectivity is not happening in the right amount, or there is an over-connectivity in one other thing, which is why the centralized tenet of connect becomes very important. Even in the actual word social is all about connecting, whether it is one-to-one, or it is one to a group, or it is to a social context. It is about connecting. So the English word connect, the neuroscience word connect, the neurobiology of connect, and the warmth that we have felt last night at the party, or in the last 2 days, that connect, or the hugs I got, that connect. All of that seems to be about connect. So I like to believe that it is not just the scientific part of connect, but the also emotional, the social, and the human connect. That I think Ranjan also said something about the gesture of connect, and it comes from here. And it comes from your whole being. Often when I speak to a parent and they're talking about this, we don't have the words for connect in our own language, in Hindi especially and in other, the concept of connect, but we all have access to it. Yeah. So when a child looks at you and is looking through you versus when a child is looking at you and they have that light in their eyes and you know that they have connected to you. There is no scientific word for the difference between the two. But each person, each one of us knows when they're connecting to us. That's what connect is. And I think it's visible and it's an experience that all of us can have. And as therapists, as parents, we know when that magic is happening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Would you like to add anything? Bernstein?
I'll just play off your term with eye contact. Eye contact has become a universal goal in some cases, but I think it's backwards. Yes, when someone's really engaged, the person has eye contact, and what's happening is that, oh, all right, then let's get the kid to have eye contact, and that means he's engaged. It doesn't work that way. So you have, and you know this, you have therapists or practitioners will hold up something, a shiny thing, something attractive, to have the kid look at that attractive thing in front of your eye, and they say, oh, the kid is going to have eye contact because I'm kind of forcing the kid to look at your eyes. But the kid's not really engaging with you and your mind. So that's one of my, I have many pet peeves, if you get to know me. That's one of them. Eye contact means nothing unless engagement first. And when you ask Chris or some of these other people on the spectrum, they'll tell you, you know, or Look Me in the Eye by John Elder Robison, they'll tell you, you know, I am paying quite close attention to you, even though I do not make eye contact. So leave the kid alone. His book is Look Me in the Eye. That's the name of his book, right? You know, if he's engaging with you without eye contact, that's the goal. So let's get it, you know, straight with that kind of thing. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. You played Joanne. You put a lot of emphasis on sequencing, repetition, and other principles. Can you just explain how it works in terms of movement therapy and how it kind of translates? I mean, it's a kind of bottom-up approach. I mean, what changes happens in the brain when those kind of movements happen in the movement therapy?
Good question. What I found was when I presented a very structured, kind of scientific movement and music program, it's really a dance class. I have a degree in dance many years ago. And I wanted to replicate the feeling and the joy that I had, that I experienced from wanting to be a dancer and to go on and get a degree in dance and then dance in New York. I loved dancing. But what I knew I loved was my brain loved dancing. My brain loved the patterns and the sequencing, whether it be ballet or modern dance or jazz. The challenge was to imitate whoever was leading the class, and that's what gave me the thrill. So I knew that I wanted our kids to be able to experience that same thing. I was kind of at the beginning and the forefront of providing a movement and music discipline therapy for kids as an intervention for autism. 10 years ago. I started in 2007 with that, so it's more than 10 years ago. And what I saw was they responded, and what I saw was that the more I put the same pattern throughout the class, and they started to do what any dancer would do. Oh, I already know that. Because the brain is quick on patterns and sequencing. It goes, I got it. So if you do it once and you do it again in the next song, but you do it to a faster tempo, the brain goes, oh, no, I got it. I don't have to think about that. And by the time you do it the third time, your brain is basically taking over, and now it's a body-brain connection. And that's really what body-brain connection means. It's like you're not having to think that he put his left foot, she put her left foot and then her right foot out. The brain does it already, and that's body-brain connection. And through that, what we see is, what I believe is, and many others do, is that the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, the corpus callosum, is what what connects those. And so the connectivity for our kids, not so super highway-y, if you know what I mean. And the connectivity is not going to the left hemisphere of the brain. We know that because eligibility and criteria of autism is a speech and language deficit, some kind of behavioral issue, and social skills. Well, the speech and language is the key there. It lives on the left side of the brain. And the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe are the two, the Wernicke's and the Broca. Those are the two areas that control speech and language. When we can start to stimulate those areas, we get our kids talking. And through temporal lobe, gross motor, from the back and the cerebellum, and the frontal lobe, all coming together, we get a cross connection between the left and right hemisphere of the brain, and we kick in speech and language through patterns and sequencing and repetition. I believe that the brain loves repetition.
Right.
There's some people that don't.
Right, okay. So, Dr. Arora, Kavita, you have a team of excellent therapists, and that video was really, really encouraging, where all of the therapists spoke about their own experiences and how to deal with them. I was just wondering, how do you coordinate the how the activities for a particular child are coordinated within the therapeutic framework? Do you have case discussions, or do you, we have discussed a lot about person-centered planning and everything else, but it's okay, but how do you go about doing it in real life? For example, with a particular kid, how do you go about doing it? How do you involve, whom do you involve, and how do you involve the different therapists?
That's a very good question. I think we've struggled with it for a lot of years till we've arrived at what we're doing right now, which is that the team that works with a child or with any of the children, the first part is to make the team into a community. And for them to be thinking of certain things in a common and in a philosophical kind of way, and to embody them. So as I've heard the last 2 days, I also realized that we've been talking about models, we've been talking about therapies, we've been talking about strategies, and then we've been thinking about other things as well. And it can get very confusing for parents as well as professionals to understand, are we talking strategy? Are we talking an approach which can work for a lot of people, which is a model, which is replicable, versus what Bhishmadev talked about, that what will apply to one will not apply to another. So these are all paradoxes that all parents have to actually look at, and so do professionals. So what we have been trying to do, and I cannot say it's easy, and I cannot say that we are perfect at it, is to have certain unifying frameworks, because at least in the country right now, most of the courses that are either for occupational therapists or psychologists or even MBBS doctors or MD psychiatry, they do not include the kind of work and intervention-based teaching that is required for someone to start working with a child with autism at that age. So the first 6 months are spent in trying to help them accustom and embody certain philosophies. And that's the first step. And right now we're not even talking about handling the child or working with the child. They will watch, they will learn the language that can be spoken, and how much they have to figure out is who they are and what their expectations are versus what's really good for the child. So we work on that at one level, and then we'll have them look at the senior therapists who will see. They have the theoretical sort of training, so they will learn about the model, and that's when we start them working with the child. So it's almost like saying that we will first have a training program for each therapist who comes in. We do find that 1 out of 5 do not fit in, not because they are not able to learn, but because they are not able to embody the philosophy which is person-centric in our model. And there's nothing wrong with that, it just doesn't match who they are. And sometimes they will leave of their own accord, and
right. Yeah. So who takes the lead? Is it yourself, or
no,
it depends?
I'm very fortunate that I no longer have to take the lead. Yeah? So in the beginning, yes, I had to, but we started in 2006. It has been a while. In the last 4 to 5 years, it is the team that takes the lead. There are 5 core people within the team who are right now, I would say safely, better than me in the way that they work with the model, which is why I'm able to sit here for 3 days. They're still working back there in Delhi, and it is the best team ever, and the happiest team ever, and the safest team ever. So I'm really, really glad to be working with those people.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
I'm dispensable now.
Excellent.
This has been a wonderful conference, and one of the things you're getting is that there's so many different disciplines that need to come together. I learned I may need to do more movement, some, but not enough. Nutrition, music. If you look at my book, right, I use these things, but you're opening up my eyes too. But I want to give you some practical things in terms of from a cognitive point of view that I think are true. I'm allowed to do that. Now let me give you a couple of things. Okay. First night at the hotel. The evening comes and the light is on. And I say to myself, wait a second, I don't remember putting on that light. You know, did I put that light on or that was on before I, you know how memory plays a trick on you. So I'm going to ask you, and you could shout out or not shout out or do what you want. I'm saying, I was 95% sure I did not put on that light. I didn't remember it. How can I be 100% sure that I did not put on that light? How can I be 100% sure? Just yell out a thought if you have a thought. 100% sure that I did not put on that light. Observation? Okay. Did you have a thought?
No.
100% sure because when I went to turn it off, I did not know how to turn it off. Every concept has the reverse. You cannot teach hot without teaching something that's not hot. You cannot teach big without something that's, right, not big or small. On, off. This is, concepts are reversible. If your kid says, don't worry, Dad, I know how to walk to my friend's house, don't you assume that they could walk home? Right? So that's a key tenet of conceptual development. Now, let me give you something else. Maybe another pet peeve. A person comes into my office, my kid could count to 100. I heard this yesterday. My kid counts to 100. Great. Now I'm asking you, thanks for shouting out. I want you to shout out again. What is the concept underlying counting? What's the concept underlying counting? What? Memory? Okay, memory, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Anyone else? Quantity? All right, and my idea, could you stop, I'm trying to give a lecture here. I'm just playing. So my idea of the concept of counting, tell me if you think this is right or wrong, that when you're counting, 4 is 1 more than 3, 5 is 1 more than 4. You're counting. If you don't have that concept of 1 more, then I think it's a waste of time. There's no meaning. How do you test this? You give the kid 4 pennies. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many pennies do I have? 4. No problem. You close your fist, you take 1 penny away. How many pennies do I have? Have fun with this. If the kid says 3, then he has that reversible, right? You can't teach addition without teaching subtraction. So, but if the kid says, open your hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, if the kid has to count them again, he doesn't have the concept of counting. What does this mean? One last thought about this. In schools, and they're still doing it now, the teacher tells me, I teach adding from 1 to 20, right? And then we do subtraction. You know what I'm saying. And I'm saying that works for the typical population. Why? Because typical kids play with the numbers. I played with numbers. They fill in the gap. They're doing the subtraction anyway. They don't need to be taught. With our kids, autistic kids, they need to be taught. So by the time they're learning their math, they're confused, they're lost. Why? Because they never understood the concept of addition, because subtraction should be done right away.
Right, okay, thank you so much. And there's a question for you as well, from the audience. This is, can't mummy sweater also mean, mummy, look, there's a sweater, or mummy, I want my sweater? So this
Could
is the
be,
question.
right. No, it could be, you're absolutely right. That was an example to exemplify what a cognitive, but it's perfect, because we have to be sensitive to what the kid wants, where the kid is at, what we need to do with the kid. Just yesterday, I told you this, if you're here earlier, I was working with a 3.5-year-old autistic girl at the party, and 3.5 years old, and I'm asking the mother, what do you do with, in terms of language? Says, well, she loves balls. So there's a ball, and the girl says, ball. I don't know if I said this earlier. The girl says, ball. And I'm saying, no. You heard what I said before. Ball is about a year old. Why give her more words? Let's try to combine, at least throw the ball. And that's kind of what you're saying. There could be any combination of things. And any one of those things that you mentioned indicates what? There's a concept behind mommy's sweater. I want mommy to have a sweater, and whatever it is, that's all good. In fact, it's better than good. It's great. But here's the point. These kids have to be taught. If they're not taught what they need to be taught to move on in their development, they don't move on with the development. That's the difference between a typical kid and an autistic kid.
Right, okay. So 30 minutes has also whizzed past, so we have just about a little more than a minute left. So if we can just, any take-home points from Joanne's side, down this way?
I'll be quick. What I would love to see in India is a teacher credentialing program that started in the university system. I think we have teachers that are working with our students that are big-hearted and well-meaning, and they need some credentials behind that. They spend the most time with our students. They spend 6 hours typically a day, and they don't have, all you have to do is begin to structure university system credentialing programs that start with teacher credentialing, masters, and then build up to a PhD. And that way you can bring in all your services, and the teachers will be getting ABA coursework. That's what we get in the States. Bring in everything, bring in the services, and make sure they have expressive therapy art.
My take-home is less academic and actionable. My take-home is parents can do it. I think what's been achieved in the last 3 days, the lead is in the parent community. I'll take that as applause.
You can carry on for.
Yeah. So my take home is that the best drivers of this movement to bring all kinds of neurodevelopmental disabilities to the forefront and not call them disability and leave it at neurodiversity, but find solutions to integrate everyone. I think the movement has started, and I'm taking a lot of good feelings and resonance with a lot of people that I heard in the conference, and I'm feeling very encouraged and enriched as well. Thank you.
I'll give you my take-home with a little story. The take-home is we should include, with everything that we're talking about, a cognitive role for the IAC to think of cognitively, to parents to think in terms of what I'm talking about with conceptually and so forth. And here's a story that happened with this little girl who's 2.5. And her problem was she didn't understand the future. She didn't have the concept of the future. We know a lot of kids are only in the present. This isn't new to many of you. So I'm saying, in order to speak properly, and that's one of maybe a handful of things that you need to have before you speak. Why concept of future? Because you don't speak unless you expect a response. It's an immediate future. If you're not going to expect a response from somebody, then you're not going to speak. There's no language. So I'm saying, in this case, that that's a prerequisite for speaking. And in order to teach, now the question is, you're supposed to ask me, how do you teach that? And in 10 seconds, we saw a fire truck go by my office. She said something like fire truck, fire. I know what she needed. I took that situation and we talked about fire truck. After 3 seconds of fire truck is gone, we talked about that fire truck for a half an hour. Her mother comes into the office at the end of the session, and then she's telling her mother about the fire truck that we saw. At some point, she understood the past, right? Which is more or less, right, if you got the reversal thing, which more or less you got the future. And that's my slide that you saw my slides in my lecture. That's the kid that made that progress from 0 to, being typical. So my message is keep this cognitive approach alive.
Right. So just to end, let's all connect, coordinate, and integrate. Thank you very much.